I've been surfing all morning at FlemingLTD.com to find out about Fleming Doors, Fleming Steel and Fleming Coatings and their full range of products. So come surfing with me at FlemingLTD.com. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The DL Debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sarah's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Check this.
Welcome one and all to the DL Debate. Thanks so much for tuning in now live on Highland Radio or back via the podcast. What a show we have in store for you this evening. Another packed hours GAA from the Northwest here. Coming up shortly, we're going to hear from ladies manager Maxie Kern after a side sensational victory against the odds in the Ulster Championship, defeating Armagh at the weekend. Coming up shortly after him, we'll hear from the Vora chairman, John Colm Gillespie, as his club prepare for the All-Ireland Gaelic Championships next weekend. Top pundit Colin Parkinson will also be on the line to give us his take on the GAA season so far. And completing the lineup, we will speak with Gaelic Life's Michael McMullen. The Derry man's going to give us a lowdown on Derry, of course, Derry Monaghan, and where are Armagh at currently. Now, shortly, folks, I'll be taking a wee trip to Togo. I was just thinking, thanks very much as usual to Sister Sarah's for sponsoring the show. There'd be no DL Debate without Kieran Brogan and Sister Sarah's. I want to thank them so much for their ongoing support, as I say, because of them and the Mount Errigal Hotel, Terry out there, and my friend Kieran Keaveney in New York. They are helping us pay for the trip. Bradis O'Donnell is going to document the trip. We're going out there on behalf of Plan International. I just want to put a shout out to the lads. Thanks as ever for the ongoing support. Just a quick one from the weekend there. The Markovich Club going from strength to strength. They won the under-14 county title, beating St Eunice 4-10 to 2-2. They won the league and the championship, winning every game. There you go. Well done to Markovich. As I say now, folks, the big result from the weekend, against the odds, as I said in the intro, the mastermind himself, Sir Maximus. Maxie, I'll tell you this, lad. I spoke to you a few weeks ago. We were after getting a bit of a hammering from Armagh. Tell me, how did you mastermind this one?
Yeah, look, I think you got to give the credit to the players at the end of the day. You know, they showed up on Sunday and they just delivered. Look, you come away from a game like 3 weeks ago and you're scratching your head and you just have to try and figure out what went wrong, or at least what went down on the day, what happened and what didn't happen, and what was supposed to happen that didn't happen. And I think ultimately we gave the ball away 35 times, and I think 12 of their scores of the 115 we got from directly from turnovers that we gave them, and that was very similar to last year's Ulster final. They scored 3-17 that day and 3-12 came directly from ourselves. So we knew that was probably the first thing we had to try and sort out, and I think we did that well on Sunday. And then look, I suppose we were also buoyed by a couple of additions as well. Tanya Kennedy came back and managed with the shackles on Amy Mackin, which, as you seen yourself, Brendan, was no easy task based on what we've seen in Lifford 3 weeks ago. So that was probably one factor. And then I suppose that Neil Hickerty coming good and playing up front for us was also a huge asset. So look, that, and I think the learning of the other girls from the first day. When you play a team twice in succession like that, generally it's the team that maybe learns the most as the winner ultimately. And I think maybe we took a wee bit more to begin with than Armagh did.
Yeah, actually, just from that game, actually, I didn't realise. I kind of said to you about players possibly coming back. You're definitely keeping your cards close to your chest because you weren't giving anything away that day. So for the two girls to come back, as you said, that experience and just, I suppose, was able to, bring that extra wee bit of know-how and just, even though it was only two players coming back in, the way that affected the whole side in Maxie, because Armagh were operating on a small bit of a different level to us that day. So as you said, those two players pivotal. Listen, and of course the whole group then grows from that. Maxie, of course, Armagh had beaten us in the last couple of Ulster finals when we were controlling the game. So it was some turnaround actually for them to be the raging hot favourites and for us to turn the tables on them. I mean, there's such a story in many angles coming into this game, and the victory in the end up.
Yeah, look, that's the beauty of sport, isn't it? And finals are strange games as well. You know, they do take on a life of their own. But yeah, look, I think all year we've been crying out for that sort of extra experience. You know, we've had a group of kids that have fought absolutely valiantly and given everything they could throughout the league. And, you know, and they were relegated in the league, and that wasn't part of the plan. But it was with a group of players that died on their seasons throughout the league. Every game they played, you know, and we were just crying out. And you know, we knew there were players around that could play and could, you know, take us out. And thankfully, you know, Tanya and Neve put their hand up, and Tanya remarkably coming from the other side of the world in Australia, you know, to answer a call that nobody would have. A task that nobody wanted to do, and that's to try and put the shackles on Amy Mackin. And look, she did it with a problem, and she also drove forward brilliantly as well. So you know, that added to anything we probably didn't have in the previous game as well, just that sheer physicality and energy and drive up the field. So you know, and then when you have the likes of Neve up the other end, who's able to take her off her, she won the first 3 frees of the game. We got 2 scores from it, and she kicked with a brilliant kick of her left foot as well. So you know, that was huge. And you know, our scores haven't been huge this year, and we're not shooting the lights out. So look, when you're scoring a tally of 110, you know, 3 points is a massive score. It's, you know, it's almost 30% of your score, so it's huge when you have somebody that's capable of giving you that. And fair play to the 2 girls for stepping up and, you know, and answering the call when it came.
Yeah, and their fitness was fine, Maxie. They were able to play their part throughout the game. Maybe a few sore legs today.
Yeah, look, those 2 girls in question, I suppose. You know, anybody that knows Neve Hegarty knows the competitive animal that she is. And look, you know yourself, Brendan, you know, the good players always seem to find a way. You know, they always have an extra gear. They seem to have more time on the ball than the rest of us ever had. And, you know, they just make it look that bit easier. And look, Neve is just a ferocious character, and you know, and fiercely competitive, and you know, and a huge desire to win. And Tanya's just in the nicest possible sense. She's just a freaking nature in terms of her physicality. You know, she always has been. And you know, she's currently in training with the Sydney Swans AFL team, and you know, you don't get to that level without having something special about you. And you know, and Tanya showed that last year when she marked the likes of, you know, Becky Wall and the other and semi-final and that, and you know, again done a great job and got nominated for an All-Star last year. You know, having only played the championship and having not played the league at that level for, you know, 10 or 12 years, so that tells you the character of the type of player you have. But look, I think it's hugely important the role they played. But you know, I can't go without mentioning, you know, the impact of the other girls. You know, from your, you know, Claire Freeland Goals that played her first game for Donegal the last round of the league, never played underage, never played, you know, for Donegal at any level before that, and to be able to come in and command the square the way she did is phenomenal. You know, Abigail Temple-Suku, you know, 17 years of age, she could play her the match in the minor final a week ago. Katie Dowds came up the field and kicked a point on her left foot, 16 years of age, got under 16 up the last year. You know, there's heroes all over the place, and when you get to a game like that, you know, you're asking about how do you turn it around from the previous game. Well, you know, you know, you always say that you need 13 to 14 players having the game of their lives, and I think that's kind of the way it worked out yesterday. You know, you couldn't fault anybody for anything at any stage. You know, we took the gamble on a plan and we stuck with it.
Yeah, perfect. And much credit goes to Barney Kernan for his coaching.
Barney's the maestro. He has more trophies behind him this year than some of us ever had in a career. So yeah, look, it's a great achievement. You know, Johnny McGinley came back in this year. He was involved with me in 2018, 2019, and the 3 Ulster Championship we won. Johnny has been part of all 3. In the year Johnny was away, we didn't win any. So you know, another interesting footnote. But look, the real heroes here, the players, and you know, young and old, as they from 16-year-old Katie Dowds right through to Karen Guthrie. You know, Karen and Neve Hegarty lumped through the second half. Karen Guthrie couldn't even complete the warm up in the game. You know, but she put on a huge performance. She had a very specific role to play yesterday, and you know, and we keep that to ourselves, and she managed to. You know, she just delivered. She kicked over points in play. She kicked it free. She got the ball into the last point we scored. So you know, it was just that culmination of a monumental effort by everybody. And look, to be fair as well, you know, Armagh were a little unfortunate. They lost, you know, Amy Mackin. You know, in maybe the last 5 minutes when she probably could have kicked a point, and you know, we had a stage where we had them. You know, we were penned in at their 45, and there was a hard shoe around the outside of the 45, and they really had nobody that could kick it over when she wasn't on the field. So look, you know, Brendan, you'll win the Highland Cup or score without a wee bit of luck, and we probably got that yesterday, which we haven't had in a while. And it was greatly appreciated.
Yeah, roll on the All Ireland series now. Max, you've a bit of preparation to do now. Is the squad that you have there Is it going to be what you have gone into this tournament, bar one, is it?
Well, look, we just don't know. Look, it's a very different competition now, and look, to be honest, we weren't looking past the Ulster Championship. We knew if we get a trophy at all this year and a medal, that'll be a huge achievement for these girls. And some of those younger girls have been knocking about for a couple of years and playing at a very level and have nothing to show for it. Some of the girls, the Coles, your Eamers, Karen Guthrie, Katie Mayfield, that's their first Ulster medal. It's a fine haul at the end of a career, but for others, it's their first and it may be the last, because we're definitely heading into a transitional period in Donegal. So for those girls to have that in the locker, and that was the whole focus. And we hadn't really looked at the All Ireland stage, and it's a whole different competition for us now, because there's we actually go into a far tougher looking group, having won the province, than we did if we had.
That's what I was thinking.
We go with All Ireland champions Meath and Waterford, who clipped us at home this year in the National League. So, but look, that's for another day. That's for another. We did have a number of injuries picked up from yesterday, concerning one. So look, we just really don't know what's ahead of us. And look, we'll let the girls enjoy a couple of days, and we'll dust ourselves down. Try and get back on the horse again.
Maxie, you're the man I know in Donegal GA. They'll say we're in transition, and they still won Ulster. My hat's off to you, lad. That actually done the hard good. I know the back of the minor girls 1 and 2, phenomenal stuff. You enjoy the celebrations there, lad. I'm sure there might be a wee cure and a wee lifter this evening somewhere.
Hopefully.
Good man.
Anyway.
Thanks very much, Maxie.
Thanks,
I'll chat to you, season goes on.
Thank you.
Great stuff, Maxie Curran there, mighty man. Now I'm going to talk to John Colm Gillespie, chairman of Meath Water. John Colm, welcome to the DL debate.
Good man, Brendan. How's it going?
Oh, not so bad, hey, not so bad. Are you still shoulder to the wheel there with the preparation, the 52nd All-Ireland Gaelic Championships? It must be exciting times down there.
It's all shoulder to the wheel here at the moment, Brendan, and it is exciting times. It's a big exciting time for the club, It's something we've as Lancers, we've had the county before, the county Gaeltachts before, and we run the event war and stuff like that, but it's none of them's anything like this year, there's a lot of preparations and a lot of work,
Yeah, and we're going to have, of course, lights, action, camera, TG Cahir and all, the whole nation will be spotlight on Niamh Mhura. I'm sure the whole place is looking forward to this and the challenge, and of course there's a small matter of a competition for the lads to win as well.
Well, there's a competition there at the end of it as well. TG Cahir are going to broadcast live from the Sunday evening in the semi-finals, and then 3 of the 4 finals on the Sunday, but they're going to broadcast on YouTube all weekend, so all the games from the banks will be on will be going out either live on TG Cahir or else on their YouTube platform, Now, that's all the games in the banks. Unfortunately, they're not able to do the games in Maharagal and in Dunloe, but
yeah, you have a few. There's 3 grounds going, is it, John, all weekend?
Yeah, we've Dunloe. We're using Dunloe's giving us their pitch, and Guido's giving us the 2 pitches they have in Maharagal, So,
yes.
There's a lot of football in Dunloe and Guido as well. So that's all day Saturday there, and then there's 2 games in Dunloe as well on the Sunday morning and 1 in Maharagal.
Very great. It's great doing it's great that it can spread out to the other places, and then obviously the big final games back at the banks. And you've people from Galway, Mayo, Meath, Cork, Kerry, all coming up to try and take a title back.
Well, there's 27 teams altogether. There's 5 from the county here itself, and then there's 22 travelling teams coming from, as you said. I suppose the Mayo, Galway, Kerry, Cork, Waterford, Dublin, Meath, and Loughrea from Belfast as well.
Very good, John. And tell me, the logistics of that, then, they tie in with you guys around places to stay, and are they staying part accommodation, part with local people in the area?
Well, most of them are staying with Moretti. We're lucky enough that in Ranafast, Annigan, Lohanure, and even over in Maharroti and Derry Connor, that there's Moretti that keep the Irish students. So we're lucky enough that we're able to get most of them into these houses,
Yes.
So we've them all accommodated in the Moretti houses, bar 1 or 2 other buildings that we're using as well,
Good man. And who's the big favourites for the titles and offer there, John? Are you back in your own lads for a start?
Well, I'd have to. I'd be a bad chairman if I didn't actually own them.
You'd be in trouble.
Own girls, you know. I'd be in trouble, you know. But, you know, hey, listen, I suppose you'd need to be talking to the likes of Danny O'Donnell and Oni McGarvey and them to get proper rundown on the games like that there, you know. But the Ballingeary and New Cumberland is going to be a big game. That was the final last year, you know. So that's going to be a big game there, like, you know.
Yes,
you know. So and that's.
Yeah, good man. John, that's fantastic. Listen, we're going to be we're on the bank holiday next weekend, so I'm looking actually to do the show. I would love to come down and catch you, but I'll be obviously up in the Cool Park and that. But I'll be keeping an eye on proceedings at TD Car and any highlighting we can do. John, I hope you have a brilliant weekend down there and the sun shines and they need worry, man. Have a cup at the end of it.
Good man. Thanks, Brendan, very much.
No bother, 100%, John. Chat to you soon, sir.
All right. Bye, Hugh, Brendan.
Bye. John Collin there. Fair play to him. Looking forward to that Gaelic weekend. Now at the top of the show, I said I'm going to speak to the one and only Gaelic Life correspondent and GAA encyclopedia that is Michael McMullen. Michael, how are you, lad?
Very good, Brendan. The weather's good, so you can't complain.
You're a happy man, listen, always great to talk. Michael, I was texting you over the weekend and that, and over and back. You're a great man for a bit of info or a bit of lowdown. I was just going to ask you, Michael, about the Ulster teams in general, but particularly, I suppose, Derry, Monaghan and Armagh, and what you're seeing. And I'm just wondering, is there a bit of a, like you talk about a hangover to Armagh, I'm just looking at Derry against Monaghan. I don't want to disrespect Monaghan any, but from the previous game, Mal, do you find it very hard to figure teams out from games previous? Because there seems to be a serious up and down level out there we're seeing from different teams. 1 minute, we're looking at as the season goes on, a brilliant Mayo, and then something happens, or Dublin, you think up and down, and Derry now, Armagh. We can't kind of figure out where these boys is at.
That's a very fair point. It's there's been nobody that's been completely consistent. Maybe Mayo outside of their game with the Rossies, but and as you say, even in terms of Armagh and Derry, with them being Ulster finalists, does the weekend put immense pressure on the Ulster Championship, Brendan, going forward? Do Armagh and Derry next year decide, do you know what, we actually don't need to fill the diesel tank for Ulster anymore? I don't know. I hope not, because Ulster's so good, but I think it definitely does ask questions about it, Brenton. I definitely do. But in fairness to Kieran Meena, in his post-match interview, somebody had mentioned the word hangover, but he dismissed it. He thought it was very unjust on Monaghan.
Yes.
I suppose, as you saw yourself, Monaghan made a few changes in terms of energy. They brought a bit more youth. But to be fair, there's nothing as good as 4 weeks in the long grass when you've just got a hammer. Especially when you can go to Clonus and watch a game that goes all the way. And I think Monaghan probably learned a lot about Derry and the fact that they were able to close off the space behind Paul Cassidy and Ethan Doherty for those runs that have cut teams open for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And they definitely got a lot of joy out of it. And I think from a Derry point of view, the first half, Brendan, was probably as close to the first half of the Dublin League game as you can get. Derry sat off and Monaghan just came at them a wee bit like Ethan Rafferty did in Clonus and dictated the game. And the breeze was significant enough, Brendan, that Monaghan were able to shoot and take scores. And to be fair, they took their scores very, very well. And it was level 6 times in the first half. But in the first, I think it's 17 minutes, I'm not sure exactly, but roughly around that time scale, Derry had 4 wides that, could have changed the game a wee bit, to be fair, but Monaghan full value for their performance. And when you're 3 points down twice in the second half against a team like Monaghan, they've been tipped to be relegated so many times in Ulster, but they never do. And for Derry to get 4 points on the bounce and then not win it is a kick in the teeth. But from a Derry point of view, Brendan, it's definitely a point gained.
You're right, Michael. Listen, that showed huge grit. I totally agree. And just, if you look at Monaghan, suppose the second half against Tyrone, you're like, right, is that the real Monaghan? Because if it is, I was thinking this game could go anyway with Derry in the Ulster semi, but how Derry dismantled them and took them apart was a bit frightening. And then you're thinking, hey, are Derry on the tilt of it? So maybe it's one of those sticky games. You said I think that Monaghan lost the last 4 or 5 championship games to Derry, and certainly 2 in the last year or whatever. So you're thinking, as you said, they were waiting for a wee bit of an ambush, and nothing like Monaghan to do that. I mean, they're probably one of the best teams in Ulster at that. They're kind of battle hardened, always say that. That's why I was surprised at how easy Derry rolled them over in Ulster. So I was maybe more closer to the better Ulster team. Just around the pitch, the scores from Derry and that, they just looked like there seemed to be answers coming from Derry there around an All-Ireland tilt. I felt, leading up into All-Ireland. Now them question marks are back again. Would that be your feeling on it? Are they still capable, you think, or are they still a few players off?
They certainly will. There's a big question mark, Brendan, and I think it's not even, it's not even an All-Ireland title tilt at this stage, Brendan. It's really a case of we've had 2 games in a row where they've been draws and we haven't fired properly. So I think that Derry have got an awful lot to prove this weekend in Ballybofey. Not just about who finishes top of the group or who's going to have a go at winning Sam. It's more short term than that for me. But you mentioned the scores, like that day in Oma, there was 10 different scorers. That was phenomenal. And Derry's performance probably provided that. On Saturday night, Shane McGuigan scored 9 points and he made Niall Toner's 2 points. That's 11 out of 14. That's some difference in 10 different scores in Oma. So I think Shane McGuigan has scored 38% of Derry's total this year. He's an exceptional player. Yeah. But I'm not saying that, when you think about it, Brenton, too, every top team, look at Kerry against Mayo. Without David Clifford, and I suppose their keeper, they would have been better at the gate. So every team's relied on one person, really, when you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to be, but he retired, unfortunately for us. But Guigan, I would say, you'd have to say at the minute, he's up there. He's up there with Clifford in terms of his influence in games. I mean, as you said there,
he's the best forward in the game at the minute for me.
Yeah.
At the minute.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. And again, looking at Armagh's performance against Westmeath, again, you don't want to take anything away from Westmeath, and then you're thinking about the Derry draw with them. Is there a wee bit of background question mark about Derry now in terms of the obviously the management change? And I know you said before about Kieran Meena being a good fit to take the team on and that, but is there a fear that there could be an effect to the Derry performance going into this championship because of that?
Well, there's make no mistake about it. The loss of Rory Gallagher as manager is immense, because as a manager, I don't think there's anybody better. In the way that he is taken Derry. So he's gone. That's definitely that's a game changer. But in terms of what Derry were going to do, there was only one thing to do, and that was appoint Kieran Meena. There was no other debate. And the thing about it is, Brendan, he has been working alongside Rory for his whole tenure. And he was there with the players under Damien McAlean the year before that. So he knows it inside out. And I couldn't imagine it changing too much, in terms of how they play. There has been no change in personnel in the panel or anything like that. I did ask Kieran after the game on Saturday, because out of Derry's first 4 or 5 attacks, they kicked the ball a wee bit more, and I was asking, was it a change of tact? And he said, not really. It was just the way Monaghan had set themselves up that it gave them that opportunity. And I think they won a lot more longer kickouts in that first 10 minutes, which meant they were really quicker. So to answer your question, there definitely is going to be a change, but Derry had no option. That was just the way it was going to be. A few people said to me, Derry need to go and get a manager. What's that going to do for the season? Going and looking for somebody now. It was just that was the way it was going to be. No. And I suppose back to the first point, Brent, I made about Derry, the players are probably going to have to. This is maybe a wee bit harsh. I'm not saying soul searching, because they haven't lost in their last 2 games and they've won back-to-back Ulster titles. But even the body language, they're disappointed in their performance at the weekend because Monaghan outplayed them. So it's a really short-term thing this week, and they're not going to be able to do any training this week really because of just the whole exploits of the games being too close together. So it's maybe just a mental focus this week. And the other thing is they're going to somewhere that you'll correct me if I'm wrong here. I think Down, Tyrone, and Mayo are the only teams to have won in Ballybuffet in maybe, I don't know, 2010 or something like that. So there you have that to focus on as well.
Yeah, you're right. We're hoping to play up and all that, Mal. I'm really interested to get your views on that, Mal. And of course, a wee word in Armagh as well. If you just hold on there, Mal, we're just going to kick a quick advertisement break and back to you then, all right?
Okay.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
Curdach noch an keen le Generation Apprenticeship. Agus dionta shuntasacha curha fáil mar réan le ifig náisiúnta printi seachta nua. Bei deisina den chéad scohan de gnána idir bhilg agus mhór. Tá santaciocht fáil freisin, rud de chiúirí deis don tríha bheaga únéirí sipaí agus de cheardaithe an nóa Herbert agus an neartú trí printi seacha aircú. Ná cáil an deis seo, túr cuairt apprenticeship.ie inniu. Tugrudach id rialtas na héireann.
With a high digital online skills course, you'll feel a real difference.
I can listen to all the music I like. The bus app that's coming out, it's brilliant.
Anything you want to know, it's at your fingertips.
They're small things, but they mean something.
Learn essential online skills with simple, accessible lessons at highdigital.ie or free phone 1800 20 30 30. Brought to you by Vodafone Ireland Foundation and Alone. Vodafone. Together we can.
In this week's RTE Guide, in our Eco issue, architect, designer and TV presenter Roisin Murphy on sustainable living. We catch up with Room to Improve's quantity surveyor Claire Irwin and Mary Reynolds on gardening in harmony with nature in our new column, The Reformed Gardener. Everything and more. RTE Guide on sale now.
Concerned about your health? Looking for a professional opinion? Where luxury care meets medical excellence, Kingsbridge Northwest offers a range of healthcare treatments and services. From head to toe, our private GPs and specialist consultants are available to assess, diagnose and treat any issues you may have, all within a tranquil and stress-free setting in Ballykelly. Why wait? Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.com for further information today.
Hi, I'm at the Garda station, but it's nothing. I told this girl I was seeing for a while that I'd put shots of her up online. Shots she sent me, so they're mine, really. I only said I'd do it, but the guards are saying that's a crime now. It's not my fault, Mum. I didn't do anything. I only said I would.
Threatening to share intimate images is a crime with serious consequences. Contact your local Garda station if you need to report it. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
The DL Debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sarah's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yes, welcome back. I'm talking with top Gaelic Life and GA correspondent Michael McMullen. We are shooting the breeze about the weekend. Michael, before the break, I said I was going to ask you a couple of questions before we get on to Donegal Derry, which we're all very interested in. Armagh, are we being too harsh in Armagh after the weekend? Again, you think about Monaghan, obviously Westmeath, not a lot was expected of them, but still, you know, a decent side, come up with a good game plan. They hung in there early doors. You know, there was a period there like Armagh missed 1-4 in a space of a few minutes. I thought Westmeath were going to get blown away at that point. They hung in, well, and if anything, played the better football after that.
Yeah, to be honest, Brendan, I didn't see this game. I watched the highlights and saw the last 10 minutes. But by all accounts, Rian O'Neill's goal chance ends. You know, it sorts it out at that stage.
Yeah.
I did expect Armagh to come back with a real bounce because there so many regrets from that Ulster final. They left it behind them. You know, I know Derry took it, but they left it behind them. And, you know, I think Westmeath had something like a couple of hundred supporters among a partisan Armagh crowd. Like that was an opportunity to come with a statement for Armagh. And apart from like Turbo's goal, essentially won it at the end, like smash and grab and you know, a total smash and grab. So I don't know. There's still a lot of question marks. But I did say that the Derry and Armagh, as the teams that have had the tussle in Ulster, their number one priority is to finish top in the group. Like Armagh have to finish top of the group. They need that fresh week. They need that week off. So from their point of view, Brendan, they've got a result, which means it sets up, potentially, if they can get past Tyrone, a top of the table clash with Galway. That's where they need to be. But in the short term, I just don't know where they are. Like I really don't. They should have beaten Derry with the chances they had. Yeah. Like Conor Turbot didn't get on the ball at all. You can't have that. You need to be going at it far more. I just don't know, but they got a result. They live. They move on. They go to Oma and to go again, but I just don't know. They're just so unpredictable.
And we won't really probably know until we see how Westmeath acquit themselves against Tyrone and Galway. I mean, it's a very difficult group. It's a very difficult group for really, particularly for Armagh and Westmeath to be in. So how they play against the other sides, and I'll tell you that. And of course, you have, the backstory to Armagh and Tyrone, and I don't think Armagh really want to be playing Tyrone at this point. Do you?
I don't know. Well, it'll definitely sharpen the focus. There's no doubt about that. And Tyrone are probably disappointing enough in Galway. They're coming again this weekend. They need to get something out of this season. They don't look to be firing whatsoever. And when you think back to the first half against Monaghan, Tyrone looked like All-Ireland contenders. Like, just the way they were playing. And now I don't know, but I think Brendan, probably Armagh do need a Tyrone game. They need something that'll sharpen the focus and say, you know what, let's go at this. Maybe a wee bit. Remember, Tyrone were stumbling through the back door at a stage, and they drew Dublin one year. I think it was 2005 when Muggsy scored the goal.
Yes.
They needed that game to energise them. Maybe that's what they need this weekend, but only if they win it, Brenton. But maybe this is the fixture that gets the juices going.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Well, listen, one that gets the juices going, I think, from Donegal people, particularly because we had a decent second half against Clare, is that we might listen. When I seen that group come out and how we had played, particularly against the end of the league and against Down, I was thinking, God, we're going to be under pressure here. There's probably maybe a wee bit of hope now from Donegal in terms of being at home. The Clare second half, Derry maybe not firing, as you're saying, Mal, on all cylinders. That could come right though on any given day, but there's maybe a wee bit of hope there. Kieran Minakos was asked about the game after, and he talked about the game that they lost a couple of seasons ago in Ballybofey. I don't know, I seen one of the journalists and he forgot about the Ulster final last year. Maybe he was thinking about the fact that it was Ballybofey. I know sometimes when you have the game head on, you can something just zones in, because I'm sure there was a lot of things running through his head at the time, Mal. But do you see anything in them ball around Donegal's second half and Clare and how Derry are playing that could give Donegal some bit of hope to I suppose give Derry a game, Mal, because that wasn't look likely a couple of weeks ago in terms of the seasons that they had so far, the way Derry were hammering the likes of Monaghan and we were losing the Down.
It definitely did, Brenton, and most of the Derry people I chatted to, either before the game or at the game, they talked about, if we win this game, we're going to top the group. That was the general consensus of Derry people, that Monaghan was the top of the table clash. Now that has completely changed. And Donegal, I feared for them going to Clare. I was looking at it as a draw or potentially a slip, but they got a massive result down there. When you think of the way the game went, probably come down to Sean Patton's save, Brenton, probably at that stage when there's maybe 3 or 4 points in it. But Kieran Thompson, with that sweet left peg of his, and Oisin Gallen definitely created problems. But like, they're scoring an average of 11 points a game, Brenton, and I think was it 14 they got in Ennis. Is that sort of tally going to be enough? They're going to need to get a goal against Derry. Yeah. Do they look at Monaghan? Monaghan, similar scoring average, similar sort of Division 1 type team. But the only thing is, Derry, I hope, learn the lesson of not inviting Donegal onto them the way they did Monaghan. So it probably leaves it that Donegal are going to need to get a goal on Sunday evening, Brenton, for me. But back to, as we were talking about Derry in our previous conversation before the ad break, it's maybe a bit of a chip on the shoulder in Derry people this week, where they feel they have a point to prove. I hope so.
Well, that's fighting talk there, Mal. I'm a bit afraid of that. I'm hoping that you come to Balfay kind of back office and let us have the ball a bit and work our way into the game. My fear is that they would go for the juggler, which we don't really see that too much of outside of a goalkeeping press. And then we have the one and only Sean Patton, maybe they ping out around that. But listen, Mal, I'll probably see you down there. Well, I hope we give you the game. That's all I'm saying. Good into it.
No, I'll definitely see you there, Brendan, and all the best, and thanks for the chat.
Not at all, man. Brilliant to talk as ever, sir. Thank you very much. I'll see you, and I'll see you at the weekend. Yeah, Michael McMullen there of Gaelic Life. Great to talk to him as ever. Now, as I said at the top of the show, I'm going to speak to a man, top presenter and pundit, and he's got his own gig going with the name of the smaller fish. It's the one and only Colin Parkinson. Colin, welcome to the DL Debate.
Well, Brendan.
Good to hear you. Colin, people talk about podcasts and shows and different things. You have an entertainment package here. Like I'm waiting for Smaller Fish TV to hit the sky so we can have you on 24/7.
Unfortunately, in Ireland, Brendan, the television options are limited enough to RTE, and the bridges have been fairly well burned there. And
you've burned a few bridges in your time now. I must say. Listen, there was only one thing for you to do, and that was to have your own gig, you know.
Oh, it was that or the dole. Either be able to do it on my own. Yeah, the options are limited. The media landscape in Ireland's pretty small, but Virgin Media were interested in doing like a magazine style show last year, but it went quiet this year, so maybe they might come back next year and have a look. I think there's a huge gap in the market for some GEA shows on TV during the week. There's nothing. All we have is the Sunday game, and that's very rushed and very soundbitey, and there's no relaxed kind of, magazine style show, analysis show that has a bit of room to breathe and give GEA fans something on the bloody telly.
And Colin, the nation seems to be crying out for this. We spoke, obviously, I'm lucky enough to contribute to the Smaller Fish, and we speak sometimes about, your general perception out there from everybody is they want, more of a analysis, more of a maybe light-hearted look at things, and that two sides to entertaining and analysis, which seems not to be out there at the minute, as if the whole country's asking, but people who are in charge up there just have their heads stuck in the sand going, this is how we're doing it.
Well, listen, the reality here is you have a combination of the GEA not holding the main broadcast right holder, RT, to account and telling them, listen, this is your package. What are you going to give us? Like, look what Sky do for the Premier League. It actually sicken you to have that much stuff going on about the Premier League. It's in your face. They promote the hell out of it, and they made it huge. RTE do the complete opposite. They just do the bare minimum. They do the same as they've always done. They've tried a couple of TV shows. They've been terrible. They haven't worked. They don't seem to have any innovation. And now they've just given up. And, they got an extra night's broadcast rights, and they've used it for a Saturday game. I think there's only 6 or 7 Saturday games the entire year. I think they're using that to take pressure off themselves on a weekend that's absolutely packed. And so nothing really has changed. The new broadcast rights have come and gone, and we're back stuck with the very same thing.
Yeah. And where do you think it's going to go then? Do you think that the GE Go offering is going to eventually come up to scale and have some kind of showing that, even if it's repeating on there, that people can go in and it's not got that kind of very safe kind of steel format? Do you think that's a possibility down the line somewhere, or do you think it's going to continue more the same?
I think GEA Go will eventually do that, because the GEA were looking into doing their own type of shows before COVID hit. I think they built a studio in Croke Park and everything, so they're really going strong for this. And then COVID happened and they were knocked back and they had to cut their budget, and I think they laid off staff and all those kind of things. But they're back, I suppose, going well again. So maybe that's something down the line. There's definitely a market for it, Brendan. Jesus Christ! Like look at the market that's out there, even for podcasts, for GEA. People are fanatical about the GEA.
Yeah.
So a TV show during the week is the greatest no-brainer. I think it's a crime, Brendan, that there isn't anything like that you'd sit down on a Wednesday night or a Monday or Tuesday night, like a Monday night football analysis, or a more light-hearted one, on a Thursday night. All this stuff should be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, listen, Willie, 100%. Listen, you are doing your best for that side of it. Willie, how do people sign up for your what do we call it? A GA package, a show? I don't know. What do you call your whole?
Listen, mine's a GA podcast. Let's be honest. It's all audio, and I do 4 or 5 shows a week. There's a review show, football on a Monday night, hurling on a Tuesday, or a football review show on a Sunday night. I get that out about 9:30. Then a hurling review on a Monday. There's usually some sort of interview on a Tuesday, and we'll do a hurling preview and a football preview on a Wednesday and Thursday. So there's 5 shows a week, which adds up to maybe, and sometimes there's more, sometimes there's 6. Get about 20 shows minimum during the championship for €5 plus VAT a month. So it works out very, very, very cheap. Like, I mean,
Great.
you know.
So just Google Smaller Fish and you'll
Google Smaller Fish. It's on patreon.com/Smaller Fish. And thanks very much for the plug, buddy.
Yeah, not at all. Well, listen, I, like as you're saying, now in many ways, guys like yourself are giving people that ability to connect with proper analysis and previews and reviews and the whole lot. I mean, it's
well, now, Brendan, I have to cut you off there. Me and you are on it, so proper analysis now might be.
Well, like, you've Aaron Kiernan off that, me on for the crack. I think that's why. Yeah, we get into a few stories and that, which again, well, sometimes like on the like of this and that, there seems to be the hours working against you sometimes between breaks and different things and that. But we just go hard at the Gaelic football. Well, just talking about the Gaelic at the weekend there. Myself and yourself, and often as Aaron, I know Conan was on there last week. You know, we're trying to predict games from other games, and we're seeing such up and down performances for teams, and look at maybe an Ulster hangover. You know, you look at the 4 games at the weekend there, 2 were draws, 1 by a point, the other one was by 2 points. Is the teams realising that this is how we have to be to compete? I think I parked the Cork Louth teams, but the other teams was involved. I mean, we impressed with Westmeath obviously, and how Roscommon acquitted themselves in those 2 games. That's the modern way, Willie. You have to do it.
Well, that's it. I think it was only Galway that were in a provincial final that won, which is an incredible statistic. Nobody else won. Some of them drew, but only Galway won out of the 8 teams that were in provincial finals.
Armagh won by a point.
Armagh won, yeah.
Sorry, but it was close. They were lucky. They were lucky.
They were very lucky. But the common thing between Westmeath and Roscommon was they were both going in as underdogs away from home, and they both dominated possession. And the favourites allowed them dominate possession, which is just, for me, it just makes no sense how a home team wouldn't be trying to set the tone, play the game on their terms, go force the turnovers, and not only force the turnover, score, press that kick out, to get another score, get the crowd behind them. And all that stuff doesn't seem to happen, Brendan. It seems to be passive. Armagh waiting inside in their own structure, and Westmeath playing around the outside of them. And Dublin the very same. Westmeath had almost 6 minutes possession. This is absolutely unprecedented. Conan Doherty was on the show on Sunday night, and he said in 2018 in the All-Ireland final, he did a piece on Dublin. They held the ball for 69 seconds. And he shared this on social media, and nobody could believe it. He was like, look at this, control.
Yeah.
1 minute and 9 seconds, Brendan. 5 years later, we're talking nearly 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And the goalkeeper had 16, 17 possessions in that. It is boring. It's not Roscommon or Westmeath's fault. They're right going away from home against the favourites. I can't understand the mentality of teams that are favourites at home allowing this to happen. It is so bizarre and bonkers.
Do you think, Willie, there's shades of, and we spoke about this before, that remember before being the Super 8s, there's a lot of games in there that weren't what you call championship because of just the nature of the mindset and the format of that. Do you think in many ways Roscommon got up there, as I was saying to you last week, having won in Croke Park at 43 years? They obviously were tactically, well set up against Mayo, come up short against Galway, and listen, Galway they're a tough proposition. I think they're a top side, again, very well coached themselves. So, they're going up against Dublin. We seen what Kildare did, but then we thought Dublin shooting the lights out. They were back. But in many ways, Dublin looks so ordinary against Roscommon. Do you think that dressing room before the game, and I know tactics and drilling, nature and coaching and that, can you imagine Dublin dressing before that match? I'd say it was as calm as, you could have probably just snoozed. The Roscommon man was probably buzzing. They go 6-2 up in the first half. I'm sitting going, is this actually happening?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Look, Dublin, there's no real consistency to Dublin's performance. You think they've kind of cracked it and they're giving good ball into Con against Louth. And then they come against Roscommon and they gave him no service at all. I think Costello tried to give him a kick pass. The long kick-outs Cluxton did against Louth were gone. He was just tapping it to the corner back. It's all confused. It's low tempo. It's passive. Dublin, for me, have the best team, their first team. They miss Jack McCaffrey massively. He breaks holes, but they're just so passive. Kilkenny's gone completely off the ball. All he wants to do is keep it ticking over. There's no creativity with him, and you need creativity in a half-forward line. And they have Bugler, who's more of a hard runner. I don't say, other than Fenton, there's nobody really to kick a ball in to the forest. I think they're all over the place. They're reflecting their manager, who's very, very kind of a passive, dull. Let's be honest, I think Desi's a nice man and he's a legend, but he's a boring type of a man. You just need to hear him talk. And they say teams reflect their manager, and that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think the quote is in the day, of course, the jury is still out and where we're really at. Like, I'm thinking, well, at this stage, surely you know where your team is at. Like, why is there this kind of question mark? If he was 5 games into the tenure, you'd probably understand that type of comment, Willie. And just, looking at them, in terms of, listen, Roscommon and Burke, obviously, listen, Mark McHugh's in there in the background. Roscommon looked very kind of, as you would have seen Donegal back in the day, and obviously Tally going down to Kerry and Keane over in Galway and that. Are we just seeing filtering into all these teams? They look to pull in somebody. I mean, maybe Armagh were too much that way. They took Donoghue and maybe to give them a bit of flair, which they seem to have lost. But are you seeing, Willie, now basically same template, everybody, fitness like hell, drill like hell, cut off a space, squeeze up in the kick out, keep possession till the very last moment and try and get an overload? And it's basically where we're going to see all these games going now, and particularly if you're looking at Westmeath coming up, that's the only way they can play it.
Yeah, it's very, very dull, and the possession's only going to get worse, because if the defending team doesn't want to engage, they all have different lines where to start the defence from. Derry will wait inside the 45. Dublin might go up past halfway. Somebody else might go up to the opposition 65. Kerry probably will engage them there. They're all trying to make the pitch smaller. Derry are an extreme, version of that. And basically that's it. They don't want to come outside there because that's their defensive structure. That's what they back off. They'll all press a kick out after a set play, but after a point from play, they won't press it. They're back into this structure, which they say is kind of set. Now, the opposition only has to play around outside of that and use their goalkeeper as the extra man, and you have a game of piggy in the middle, and you won't get the ball back off them. And embarrassingly for Dublin Armagh, they allowed this to go on at home. Instead of pushing an extra player up, even fouling them, Brendan. You foul one of those Roscommon lads, if you're a Dublin fella, immediately the fella taking the free is gone as an option. Another lad go in, run on the goalkeeper, and now you're all manned up. Yeah, they didn't even lay a glove on them, Brendan. Not even a glove in almost 6 minutes. Brian Fenton was the only one in that nearly 6 minutes that laid a glove on a Roscommon man. Yeah. It's absolutely like what we saw that day. I think, like, it's what we saw on Sunday with Dublin and on Saturday with Armagh is the start of something that is going to be very, very boring. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Well, do you think that comes back now? Armagh at home, this packed house championship, technically, but they've obviously lost the Ulster final and that. I'm just thinking, what was the buzz like there and the buzz in the Dublin dressing room? Well, as much as everything's controlled now and drilled and all that, there still is a side of GA, which is the buzz, That seems to be draining out of these teams in certain games in terms of bringing their best to it. As if Dublin, maybe them guys won't have a buzz until they're in the bloody All-Ireland final because they've been through so much, Yeah, I don't think it's the system or anything like that, Brendan, or the new All-Ireland series. I think that's just the way football has gone. That's it. That's football now. And I don't think it suits the likes of Tyrone and Armagh, who traditionally are the most combative counties, who are in your face. What part of Armagh or Tyrone's psyche is dropping off and waiting? It just doesn't compute. Not with the teams I ever played against, anyway. I would have loved them to drop off, to drop off you and not be in your face, annoying you. That's not Armagh and Tyrone. They've got sucked into the dark side of this kind of football, and they're paying the price for it because it's awful. And Dublin have been sucked in a few years ago. Probably the most offensive team in the country is Kerry. Galway are definitely in that zone, and they're all playing the same way, and it's very hard to break out of it. Mayo actually probably are the most attacking team along with Kerry. I think Mayo have the balance really, really good between, playing on the front foot. They always do. That's the Mayo psyche. They've never really sold out to this dropping off. They're doing it a bit under Max Day, but not to the extent where imagine Mayo at home watching Westmeath own the ball outside of their screen. Do you think that would happen? It just wouldn't. Yeah. I would say, well, I mean, myself, yourself and Aaron be on the Thursday. We could have to bring up a lot of stories to keep things interesting, the way you're
the way you're captioning it here. And listen, well, you know me, I've been in agreement for that. I've kind of just learned to live with it at this point in terms of tactics. And like I often say to people, listen, you could nearly tune in the second half because nothing's really going to happen that'll matter in the first half. You know, it's a terrible thing, but that is the truth. You know, every ball used to matter.
We're using, sorry to cut you off, we're using the shadow boxing analogy on the show the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're shadow boxing, they're feeling each other out. This is what happens. And someone sent me a tweet the other night and said we should just, like what you're saying, we should just tune into the last 10 minutes when both teams actually decide, let's go and win it now. Or Derry just finally, after sleepwalking through the entire game, goes, shit, we're 3 points behind. Like, we're down on the scorecard. Let's come out swinging. And they did. And then you remember the last 10 minutes, Brendan, you go, you know, that was exciting. Jeez, they came back well there. And then Monaghan got that last score. And you'd be a little bit buzzing. And you're nearly disregarding the you know, very passive, very unlike a championship match that happened for the previous 60 minutes.
Yeah, phenomenal. I suppose people would say about Mayo, well, if they had had that bit more tactic, they would have got across the line. But I think, as you said there, you're selling out a lot on how you want to play and approach the game. You know, it'd be phenomenal for them to come through and win the title. Are you putting them up there, Willie, along with Galway for your favourites?
I am. I think, well, look, for me, it's between Mayo, Galway, Dublin, and Kerry. And to be honest, none of them are blowing me away. Galway, arguably, I think Mayo are outside favourites for it because they've been the most consistent, playing the best football the whole year. Only blip was the Roscommon one, and in fairness to them, they only had 6-day turnaround there after winning a national title. You know, ye all went mad in 2008 when you won the league, Brendan. Like, God, what happened to your championship? You can relate to that, I'm sure. But that's the way.
We'll end this conversation.
I don't think you were ever seen after that league win.
Well, you have too much ammo on me. Thankfully, we're down to the last 20 seconds. Colin Parkinson, Wilberto, as ever, Smaller Fish, CEO, we'll call you. Thanks very much for joining us this evening on the DL Debate.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, be in touch. That's Willie there. Always great to talk to him. I want to thank Kevin Fury for producing, as ever, and keep me right, head of sport. Oisin Kelly, Jimmy and Paul coming on now for the excellent Monday night session. Stay tuned for that. And I'll speak to you all hopefully next week. We'll see with the bank holiday. We're trying to figure out a wee show to review Derry and Donegal.
Check this.
The DL Debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sarah's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
I've lost my car keys. Lost my car once in a multi-story. Lost my patience. My hair?